2025-2026 rule change. One of the big rule changes a lot of people are having issues with is the locking hands rule change, Rule 733. Now, I always like to give a recap of the signals, the hand mechanics, what the technical violation is. So just real quick, if we saw a locking hand situation, we would, of course, blow our whistle. I'm not going to blow it for the audio, just simulate. Boop. We would stop the match. We would signal, or say it out loud at the same time. We'd say, I have a tech violation on green, locking hands, that's the signal. One red, that is the hand signals, the tech violation and the locking hand signal. Now, we're not going to go into every single tech violation because the rule change only applies to the locking hands. And the change comes from, it's no longer just an arm, the rule book has included the word extremities, which means the legs, and we're going to give you some examples of what that could be. The rule book has some illustrations, but black and white really doesn't do it justice. It really doesn't explain it the way that live video does. So we're going to get our demonstrators out here and give you some examples. So we've got our demonstrators here, and we're going to go over some of the basic locking hand situations that we'll see as officials, as wrestlers, and we got to be cognizant of what we're looking at. So the first one is our red singlet is going to wrap around the body with no arm enclosed. So now remember, only the offensive wrestler or the wrestler that's in control can get called for locking hands. There's no defensive locking hands, only the wrestler in control. So as you can see, put your arms down, bub. He went around the body and his hands are locked. We would signal that. As soon as we would see it, we would signal locking hands. Now he can do one arm around the body. That's still locking hands. He can do both around the body. And that's still going to be considered, that's still technical violation, locking hands. He can go with his hands like so. He can go over top like that. He can do like a gable grip, an S grip, whatever. If he's around the body, he's in control. He goes around the body like that. No arms, one arm, or both arms, that's still going to be considered locking hands. Now do like you're pulling in an arm bar, and then like in the front there, like a 2-on-1, and then overlap your hands. That's locking hands. That is still locking hands penalty to call it. Now locking hands also falls in the penalty progression with illegal holds, unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike conduct called during the match, and tech violations. The penalty progression is the first penalty is 1 point, the second penalty is another match point, the third penalty is 2 match points, and then the fourth is a DQ. It's not a DQ for the tournament, just that match. The locking hands is something that a lot of people really, I don't want to say struggle with, they're just not used to seeing. So if you have to, go back, rewind this, and understand, yes, there are a million different ways that wrestlers can end up in this position. If our black singlet was laying flat on the mat and they still done that, he went around the body, that would still be considered locking hands. Anytime that there's control established, go ahead guys, that's good, thank you. And you see that, you have to call it and be confident with your call. Now, as we said, Rule 733 has been expanded to include the word extremity, and we're going to give you some live demonstrations of that, live examples. So our black singlet wrestler here on the bottom, he's down. Our red wrestler, of course, is in control. We're wrestling. We've ended up in this position. There's a million different ways to get there, probably more than a million, but we've ended up in this position. Now the bottom man is going to try to get to his feet. He's going to step up. That leg comes up. Now our top wrestler, he's going to try to hold him down, but this is where the penalty comes in. He's around the body and he's got the leg encircled now. That's an extremity. That would be locking hands. That would be a penalty, the same as around the body, because the only difference is instead of his arm, he's got his leg. And in case you're wondering, yes, you're going to see some more examples of that. So, okay, reset, do that again. The bottom wrestler tries to stand up. He goes around the body. When he does, it doesn't matter how his hands are together. It could be an S grip, gable grip, whatever, overlapping like so. He's got an extremity encircled. That's locking hands. Another viewpoint of this, if you would, guys, go ahead and get set. Same situation, just a different view. Our bottom wrestler tries to stand up. Our red wrestler goes around. Now, when he goes around, this is locking hands. He's got his left leg encircled. That is locking hands. And some people will say he's trying for a cradle. Well, that may be true, but to have a legal cradle from here, he would have to be above the armpit right there, or above the arm. If he's below the arm, go ahead and go under his arm, just like so again. It doesn't matter where on the body the lock is. If he's around that, if the top wrestler's around the body like so, that is still locking hands. Now, if he goes around the shoulder like so, like a cradle, guess what? He rolls back. That's as legal as it gets. All right, men, if you would reset. One more time from that position. When he goes, the locking hands position, the leg is encircled. Parker, if you would raise yourself up just a little bit. You can see, now drop your leg down. Now encircle one of his arms, just like you done earlier. That's the exact same situation. The only thing that has changed is we went from an arm to a leg. That's locking hands. That's the penalty. Now the first two examples, different viewpoints, were considered like a far side cradle. Same situation in a cradle, but except this time we're going to have it in a near side. We're going to have our red wrestler on the bottom, our black singlet wrestler on top here. So our bottom wrestler is trying to stand up. What do we do in wrestling when we're on the bottom? We never let our head get by our knee because we know what's coming. But in this situation, our top wrestler, instead of going under the arm or around the armpit like he should, he goes around the body. He encircles the leg. That's where the penalty would come in. We would have locking hands that would be called as such. Men, let's get another viewpoint of that. Do it again kind of slow. Got that near side. He goes around the body. And there it is. Of course, another viewpoint of this, our red wrestler's down. He's trying to stand up here. He brings his head to his knee, and instead of coming like he should around the head, he comes over the body and locks. That is locking hands. That's the exact, that's locking hands. Drop your leg. Let it go there. That would be the exact same as if he locked hands around the body right there. The only thing that's changed is we went from an arm to a leg. So officials and coaches, wrestlers, be cognizant in that position. That is now the penalty of locking hands. I'm sure we'll have a lot of that this year just because it's a new rule. But hopefully these demonstrations have been able to educate you and help you win your 2025-2026 season.